Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about why this guitar here just didn't click with me for a while, and now it does. Well, this guitar here is my 1987 Kramer F6000. I've owned this guitar for just under 2 years, so I thought it was only fitting to make this video now. So before I start talking about why I used to not like this guitar, let me talk about how I got this guitar in the first place. I documented and uploaded the whole trading process in a video about 2 years ago, so I'll link that video down in the description. You guys can watch that one after this one. But I'll just recap the story for now. So basically, the first amp I ever really had was a Marshall Vavastate 2000. It was a really good amp for the price, and they're not super easy to come by, especially in the combo amp form, which is the one that I had. And after a while, once I got my JCM 900 amp from Marshall, that amp just kind of became obsolete. I just never really played it. So I threw it on Facebook Marketplace and let people know that it was also offered for trades. And with it sitting on Reverb for a while, nothing really was happening with it. I decided to kind of go on the offensive and start offering trades to people. And I saw this guitar here listed on Facebook Marketplace, and I decided, hey, why not? Let's just shoot him an offer, ask him if he's willing to do a trade. And obviously, he was. So we exchanged contact information, and we make the trade happen. This guitar here was my first Super Strat, and I was really excited to actually own one, especially one from the 80s. Back then, I really loved, and I still love to play it now, but I really love to play 80s hair metal stuff. Stuff like Dokken, Scorpions, Rat, bands like that, which, you know, pretty much screams hair metal, Super Strat sound. And that's what this guitar solved for me. However, this guitar does have its issues. And those issues related to me just not really liking this guitar. I still played it because it's my only guitar with the Floyd, which I'll talk a little bit about later. It's my only guitar with the Floyd, and it really did do that 80s Super Strat stuff very well. I mean, obviously. But the drawbacks that this guitar had just made me not like it very much. And so I've tried several times to actually get rid of this guitar. I've taken it to several guitar centers, see what they give me for it. None of them would really give me an offer that was good enough anyways, so I was kind of forced to keep on to it. But what specifically did I not like about this guitar? Well, there's a couple things. For one, I hate the fact that it has a middle pickup. Now you might ask me, hey Cole, why don't you just lower the pickup? Well, that's because the screws almost every single screw in this thing are very rusted. If not rusted, then they're stripped. I know it's hard to see in there, but I'll see if I can throw a picture of it. And with all those screws being stripped, you can't really lower any further. And I've had people ask me, well, why don't you just take out the pickup, like Eddie Van Halen kind of did? But I don't really want to do that. This color of the F6000, I have never seen another one of, and for that reason, it's probably a bit rare. And rare guitars, you don't exactly want to take them apart, put them together, that's just not what I want to do. To me, I like to keep my guitars as stock as possible, and something like removing a pickup just isn't something I really want to do. To me, I would rather just get a different Super Strat that fits my needs better than have to modify one that is, especially one that's not very common. Another issue is that these electronics, especially the neck pickup, it's kind of going out. I'm not exactly sure what needs to be done to this guitar, but I'm definitely willing to put some work into it to make it a better guitar. The pots are scratchy, sometimes the output jack likes to cut in and out, and sometimes if you like to switch between pickups a lot, it doesn't really want to do it necessarily, if that makes any sense. So basically everything in this region here, as well as the neck pickup, probably just need a good refresh, something done to them. I've never actually opened up this guitar at all. Maybe that could be a fun video, but work needs to be done to this guitar, especially when it comes to electronics. That's another thing I didn't really like about it, and I've never really worked on guitars, so it's not something I would be ready to do by myself without, you know, taking that leap of faith. And for a guitar that I didn't love a ton, it just wasn't really worth it to me. And probably what my biggest issue with this guitar was, is that it just didn't really speak to me. This didn't really inspire me to play like a lot of my other guitars do. For example, every single time I pick up this Les Paul Custom here, I am super excited to play it. I love this guitar so much. But whenever I got this guitar, and for a few years after that, I just didn't really like it that much. It didn't really inspire me to play, and it's not a bad guitar at all. It's a great guitar, it's just, it didn't have that mojo to it, if that makes any sense. But you guys saw the title. What changed? Hey, if you guys are liking this video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you guys want to see more. Well, for one, I was kind of forced to bond with this guitar. And for a number of reasons. Like what I was saying, I love to play hair metal stuff, and this guitar, objectively, is the best guitar for that kind of music that I have in this collection. And so whenever I went to college last year for the first year, my freshman year, I didn't have room for many guitars, so this was one of the guitars I chose because it is very well rounded, which I'll talk a little bit about later. It has a Floyd, and again, it does that 80s hair metal stuff style, which is what I love to play. And another reason how I bonded with this guitar is it couldn't sell. Now, I didn't really try very hard to sell this guitar. I didn't list it on Reverb. I didn't list it on Facebook Marketplace. The only thing I really did was go into a couple Sam Ashes, just go into a couple local guitar stores, Guitar Center, of course, and none of them really gave me an offer, like I said, that was good enough. So that kind of forced me to keep this guitar for longer than I would have liked back then. So being unable to separate with this guitar and having it at college when I only have 2 or 3 guitars with me at a time forced me to play this guitar a lot. Now, talking about the middle pickup here, I still tend to hit that sometimes, though I have changed my picking style a little bit. That way I'm playing either a little bit further back or a little bit further forward on the neck, not maybe on the neck, but on the body than I usually do. So it's become less of an issue. However, I still do hit the middle pickup sometimes, and it's still annoying. But I've definitely gotten better with my picking style. I tend to not move my wrist in excess much anymore. I tend to kind of keep my hands as close to the strings as possible, which you're supposed to do, especially for faster style playing, which I'm kind of getting better at, especially with a guitar like this. But like I just said, it's still an issue. Sometimes I still do hit it, but it'll only get better with time. And another thing that helped me bond with this guitar is I played it live, I think 2 or 3 times. I used it to play Eruption in front of my whole college at this like talent show thing called Mr. Crusader. That's a whole other video in itself, but I've told the story several times on this channel. So I played Eruption on Van Halen, and then earlier this year I played the national anthem for our volleyball game at my college, which is also another story, which that video was also vlogged as well. I'm really proud of that video, and unfortunately I didn't do very well, so that's disappointing. Now playing live, how that helped me bond with this guitar is just because playing live is kind of a scary experience. Very few people ever get the chance to ever do it, so very few people understand how nervous you get and how kind of it's a daunting experience. It's a very unfamiliar feeling. And so being able to share that experience with this guitar for whatever reason just kind of brought me closer to it. Especially at Mr. Crusader, because like my entire college was there, and it was a pretty scary event. There were so many people. And I do plan on playing this guitar live in the future. Harvey and I have a few ideas, which I'll talk about in a separate video. But we have a few ideas to play live, and some of those songs require a guitar like this with the Floyd. So I'm really excited to do that, and I'm really excited to continue to bond with this guitar and make more live music. Another reason why I started to like this guitar more is because I started playing a little bit more power metal. And like hair metal, this is the best guitar for that style of music. It's got a thinner neck than the PRS back there, so it helps me move around the neck a little bit faster, and it's just really good for that power metal stuff. I've been playing a lot of Beast in Black, Dragon Forced, Battle Beast, a couple other power metal bands. I've been playing a lot of their music, so this guitar is a great guitar for that, and playing some of that different music, again, just kind of forces me to play this guitar more. And the more I play it, the more I realize actually how much I like this guitar. Because again, it's a great guitar. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, this guitar is also very well-rounded. One of my favorite songs to play along with is Rock Me by Great White. What I like to do is I like to roll down the volume about halfway, put it on the middle pickup, and that's how I like to play the intro of this song. Messed up a little bit there, but that's alright, you get the idea. And then what I do is I throw it to the bridge pickup, I crank up the volume, and that's where I can play the chorus. You guys get the idea. It's a pretty well-rounded guitar for something that you wouldn't expect to be very well-rounded if you just twist a little knob here and there and flick a switch, and then you're ready to go. So those are basically the main reasons of why I didn't really like this guitar at first. So what now? Well, if you guys have seen any of my guitar shopping videos, you guys will know that I like a lot of other Super Strats, specifically the Friedman Cali. And now that I like this guitar a lot more and I intend on keeping it, will I get another Super Strat? And the answer is yes. I'll still probably get another Super Strat. The reason for that is because of the Floyd Rose, it's really hard to switch tunings. So right now I keep this guitar in standard tuning, but I think it'd be very nice to have another Super Strat with the Floyd Rose that could be kept in either a half step or a full step down. That way I don't have to worry about messing with the springs and a bunch of other stuff with the problems with the Floyd Rose with switching tunings. So having an entirely separate guitar just for an extra tuning sounds pretty extra. But for how much guitar I play, I don't really want to have to be worrying about messing with all this stuff every single time I want to play an different tuning, so I think it's worth it. But again, because I plan on keeping this guitar, I definitely think there's some work I want to get done to it. For one, like I said before, I want to work on the electronics. Whether that's something I could do or something that I would have someone else do, I would probably document the entire experience of refreshing an old vintage guitar here. But I'm assuming it just needs to be cleaned, maybe resoldered, and whatever that spray stuff you put underneath the knobs are. I'm just guessing that's what all needs to be done to it, but if it needs to replace parts, maybe I'll change the pickups or whatnot, but I'm not entirely sure. Now, I love guitars with super low action, and this guitar has pretty low action. It's not quite as low as I would like it. Well, as you guys can see here, it's not quite super high, but it's also not as low as I would like it. I'd prefer it to be as low. Shut up. I prefer it to be as low, if not maybe even a little bit higher than my Les Paul Custom here, because this action is like nothing. And that's personally what I like on a guitar. And as I mentioned, a lot of the bolts on this guitar are pretty rusty. It's kind of hard to see, but the bolts back there, right behind here, which keep the string in, they're not rusty, but these ones are, some of them are pretty stripped, so it's kind of hard to get the strings out. And as I mentioned before, a lot of these screws that hold in all the pickups, they're pretty dull, stripped, kind of rusty. I think maybe if I replace them with some brand new shiny screws, I think it'd make it look a lot better. And if you guys look up here at the locking nut, you can tell that these are a little bit stripped. It's kind of hard to see, and they're also a little bit rusty, so if I replace those, I think it would look a lot better and also perform a lot better. The tuners are in great shape, so I'm not really worried about those, but yeah, definitely want to replace some of the parts on this. Or maybe polish them a little bit, or just something to make it look a little bit more fresh. And like I mentioned a couple times in this video, I've been playing this guitar a ton recently. And with that means the frets are kind of getting a little bit worn down. Now yes, the frets do still have plenty of life in them. I probably won't have to worry about this for another couple years, but I'll probably have to get a level recrown and maybe eventually a refret. If you look there, you can just tell that these frets are just getting a little bit flat. Again, they got plenty of time in them, but I think eventually I'm going to have to do that. But that just about wraps it up for this video. This guitar used to be one of my least favorites, and now it's probably the guitar I'm playing the most right now. But if you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to click like. And if you loved it and you want to see more content from me, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.